Welcome to the Ascend Growth AI podcast, where we mix smart growth moves with a little AI magic. I'm Teresa. Let's dive in. For today's guest, we have Kelsey Stuart, co-founder of Bloomin Blinds, a family-founded franchise that's redefining the window covering industry with a unique blend of repair and sales. So, Kelsey, welcome to the podcast today.
I really appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Me too. Can you start by sharing your journey with us?
So in the scope of Bloomin Blinds, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I would represent third generation entrepreneur. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. I've never seen my parents have a 9-to-5 job. And before that, it's a comfortable position for us to harness the skill set of making money out of thin air. Kind of from a wildlife perspective, to eat what you kill and only what you kill.
Mm-hmm.
My mom started a window covering a blind business when we were in high school. We didn't really have much interest in that point. She was just a one-woman show, just doing a thing out of the garage. Went away to college for a couple of years, spent some time bartending, didn't really enjoy the prospects of that future or working for somebody else. And so came back and teamed up with her along with my two other brothers. And we built Bloomin Blinds as a family business in Dallas for the better part of 18 years. We knew we had something unique and special. We were quietly one of the larger blind companies in Dallas and knew that we had a couple of different options for growth and development, either company stores and expansion, which meant a lot of capital and a lot of employees, or take on this concept of franchising where you share the information, you train and support individuals, and ultimately get them in a position where they can run their business, but also carry the banner and the flag and expand the company through franchise expansion. That turned out to be the best idea for us. And so we moved forward with it, not really understanding what it meant to be a franchisor. That was 2014. So here we are a little bit more than 10 years later. We've got 83 franchise owners across the US. We still work as a family unit and we're still here every day. And it has been an absolute blessing for us.
That's really fantastic. Did you consider other routes besides the franchise? Was there a route when you were trying to scale?
Well, it was just that or corporate locations. So we were in the Dallas market to send one brother. At that time, we didn't have any experience in actual team management. Our Dallas office was a total of 10 individuals, some of them answering phones, some of them out in the field, but it wasn't really organizational management. And so thinking of developing an office in Houston and one in Oklahoma City and one in Kansas City, like that represented a lot more capital than we had. And it represented a lot more management sophistication or experience than what we had either. It was there were other options that weren't all that appealing. And we were very naive about the franchising world when we headed into it. We really thought they give us a check, we give them a shirt, we answer a couple of their phone calls and they send us money forever. That was the limit of our knowledge, and kind of that naive enthusiasm allowed us to just jump into this world that is far more complex and so much more responsibility than we ever really understood.
But it sounded like now you're at 83 franchisees. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's gone well. We've certainly had a good run. A lot of it is just modeling the grit that it takes to start a business, whether it's franchise or independent. There's an absolute amount of grit that is required. And so we've had a really good, intimate relationship with our franchise owners. We're not coming from the franchise world. We're not big money. There's no ego. We're just a bunch of blue collar people who figured out how to do this particular business really well. And I think that's resonated and really kind of kept it as a very enjoyable experience for both us and the franchise owners.
Yeah. Can you explain Bloomin Blinds a little bit more, what the business model is, like the territories of the franchisees, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So we fit squarely into that home service arena of business. We're servicing primarily residential customers. We definitely do commercial, but the vast majority of our work is residential. And we're in the window covering space. So any product or application that would cover up a window, blinds, drapes, shutters, roller shades. And then we've also drifted exterior. So now we're out on the patios and we're doing retractable exterior screens and pergolas. And so not only are we the sales and installation side of things, like most window covering companies, but we've always had this unique niche where we have learned how to repair them, even if we didn't put them in. The fact that it doesn't have to be our product and we can still work on it, put it back together, get it working without replacing it. That's always been just one of those consistent differentiators. It's given us a place in the market to say, hey, We're not just another Me Too brand. We're not just another one. We've got some unique attributes that kind of separate us from the industry as a whole.
That's a very unique business model, right? To not only do sales, but to also do repair, even if it's not on your own. How do you see that dual model shaping the future of your franchise growth? And how do you position that story when attracting new franchisees?
Well, I think anyone who's going to go into a business, whether it be window coverings or ice cream or restoration, I think there's a lot of benefit, especially if it's an emerging brand or concept, where you have to identify how are you different than the larger competitors in front of you. Right. For us, Budget Blinds is the 800-pound gorilla. They're the largest franchised window covering company, and they're one of the largest window covering companies in the world. 99.9% of our industry only sells and installs window coverings. There's no maintenance element to it. They just simply put in new ones, and that's it. And so, again, whether you're buying an ice cream business or whether you're buying a blind business, you've got to be able to articulate, like, why does the world need another one? If it's just because our bread is better or our meat is fresher or our marketing is prettier, like, that's usually not enough to give a new business in a new area a really good competitive edge. And so focusing on the franchising side, it's always given us a explanation as to why the world needs another blind company.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody wants to fix these things. And 40% of our appointments every single year on average originate through that repair side.
Wow, 40%.
50%. So
Wow.
There's definitely a demand. We're working on the awareness. That's probably the hardest part, is that nobody knows that you can fix these things.
Mm-hmm.
But with that many appointments, that big of a percentage, it gets us into homes that other competitors can't get into. I like to use the analogy that there's this house, and all the window covering competitors, all the blind companies are fighting to get through the front door. They're all wedged in there shoulder to shoulder. And we figured out the side door is open, and nobody's guarding it. Not a big ticket. I mean, the average repair invoice is 1/10 of the average on a new sales invoice. And so we are not promoting that repairs are going to make you rich, but it's a great customer acquisition tool. It's a fantastic entry into the home, because the truth in home service is there's two golden rules. One, answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Two, get over the front door threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you're in and they like you, then you have an opportunity to cross-sell or expand the opportunity, but you have to get in the house or you never get that chance.
Right. Yeah.
So those repairs give us a lot more at bats and a lot more opportunities, especially as we go into new markets where nobody knows who we are.
Right. Yeah.
We're not a household name.
Where would someone go if to repair their blinds? Like, who do they typically call?
Well, there's not.
Okay.
There's not a typical. There's a handful of websites that might carry parts from an e-commerce level, but it's confusing. You don't know which part you need.
Mm.
There's some risk and trepidation in that. Your average blind company won't do repairs, or they'll only do them if they did them, or they'll ship it back to the factory and it's gone for a month.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't a competitive alternative for window coverings. Replacement is the alternative.
Unexpected costs probably for the homeowners too.
Absolutely. A lot of people live with broken stuff because they don't know that we're an option yet.
How about AI? Are you guys using AI right now?
We got very excited very early about AI. We've always been a little bit on the tech forward side. I'm 48 and I'm the old man in the building. So we've always kind of been a little bit on the younger side of the technology curve, if you will. And we were the first competitor in Dallas to use an iPad. We were the first ones to use Excel spreadsheets for quoting and getting quotes in the house.
Okay.
So as AI came through about a year and a half ago, we really started to get deep into it and really started to look at how we could infuse it into our business.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently on the final stages of building out our own AI-centric operational software that all franchise owners would use. It's a small language model that's been filled with all of our data for the last 6 years. Then the software sits right on top of that. And that way our language model can see every twitch and every movement of the business and continually learn in a feedback loop. We just deployed about 4 months ago, deployed a voice agent. We have a in-house call center for our franchise owners. And so that voice agent has been taking literally half of our phone calls because it's on 24/7 on holidays, on nights and weekends. And if our 8 operators are full and a ninth phone call comes in, then our AI, our voice agent can pick it up and make progress with that customer. We don't have to put them on hold or in a queue or send them to voicemail. These are just the tips of the iceberg. We're
Great.
starting to learn how to build our own agents.
Yeah.
And so automation within the corporate side and on marketing is starting to come to fruition as well. So we are huge fans of what AI can bring and what it can do for our business. And so we are trying to weave that into the business as quickly as possible. But because we're builders, we're more inclined to create our own tools that morph and mold around our business versus subscribing to a tool where we have to bend our business to fit inside of that tool.
That can be very powerful if you're able to build around your business. That's a competitive advantage for you.
Well, honestly, I mean, the truth is we're using a platform called N8N, and
Yes.
there's another one just like that called Make.
Yep.
And then you're pairing that with Claude, which is a great programming tool. Anyone could build their own automations if they just simply start working these two programs back and forth and simply using natural language to try and describe what you need or the problems you're seeing in the programming. Through that process over the course of the last couple of months, we've been able to build out some great automations without paying for somebody to um, to do it for us or to pay us, a subscription cost.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I agree. It can be easy once you start and learn it, but it can also be intimidating to even start.
Absolutely. But that's honestly, if this is a podcast for business owners, like those are people and individuals who either are naturally willing to jump in when they don't know what they're doing, or they should be in the habit of building that skill set because that is the nature of business. You're constantly going to be in environments where you're uncomfortable and you're the least informed, but you are still going to have to push through that and succeed regardless of that scenario. Business.
What is working well for you in Blooming Blinds right now? What are you proud of?
I think selfishly, I'm proud that while we've had some success and we've grown, we're still our North Star in our daily operations and our viewpoint is still make sure the franchise owners are healthy, make sure they're happy, make sure they're supported, make sure that they're as profitable as possible, that they're focused in learning about their profits. One of our mantras is we don't get ours until you get yours. And that's always been kind of the guiding light in our perspective, which means we have to make sure our franchise owners succeed. As a company on royalty, we only get paid if they're out there doing what they want to do. And through going from a very small franchise with just three brothers running it to now a team of like 18 people, we've been able to hold on to that culture and that perspective quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so for all the different things that it could be, I think that's the one that I really enjoy and am proud of the most.
How do your franchisees right now? How do you ensure they're successful? And how is it mostly the pipeline of leads coming in and how fast they're able to service their customers? How do you measure?
Well, I mean, how we measure success and how we try and make sure that they're successful are kind of two different things. The honest truth about franchising is that the franchise owner has so much more to do with their success than we do.
True.
And
Yes.
franchising has a problem because it advertises itself with all of the look what we do for you conversations,
Hmm.
helping people feel like there's value in those franchise fees and those royalties and those other expenses. And so you kind of naturally have to focus on that. But when it comes down to it, it's the franchise owner's business. The buck stops with them. All the responsibilities are there. A franchise is a training and support organization. And so our responsibility is to put systems and processes, support and vendors in front of the franchise owners. And then it's up to the franchise owners to take those tools and run with them.
Right.
That being said, there's still very much some almost parenting elements that go into it where you can give a kid a toothbrush, but if you don't remind them to brush their teeth, they may not do it.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's some of those elements that we have to go through, like reminding people to pay attention to their monthly numbers, to actually dive into your monthly P&L and try and learn and evaluate what's going right, what's going wrong. If your business is not as busy or as profitable as you want it to be, you have to be proactive and ask questions and let us help you or find outside guidance. The easiest numbers to track are the top line revenue, but those are the most worthless numbers to track.
Okay.
It's the adage, right? It's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Right. True. Right.
And only recently have we really begun to dive in. Have we really begun to dive into helping franchise owners with the financial literacy that comes with running a business? In our 10 years of doing this and then now becoming part of the franchising industry, I'm amazed at how little there's education around the dynamics of running a profitable business.
Mm. Hmm.
It's one of those things that everyone talks about, but nobody knows how to do.
Yeah.
Right? I think you mentioned like you just came out of the corporate world. You're now going to buy a franchise. And so that's going to put you into franchise ownership. You're going to be responsible for your profitability. But if managing a P&L and evaluating where's the money slipping through your fingertips, if you don't know how to do that before getting into business, how are you magically going to understand that when the stakes are higher and the complexity is higher than you've ever experienced before? And a bookkeeper is not going to teach you that. A CPA is not going to take the time to teach you that. You need somebody or resources that are going to teach you the skill set of running a profitable business.
Right. Right.
So this year in particular, we've really started trying to encourage franchise owners to come with us on this journey. Adoption within franchise owners takes time. They're independent, they're headstrong, they don't always want to listen to mom and dad from the franchise level.
Right.
And and so we found it takes at least a year of conversation before we get good adoption of things, at least things that aren't just fun and sexy.
Yeah.
So for us, measuring is at this point, it's all about the profits. We're trying to change the narrative. We do report and we do manage and watch the top line sales. But I mean, I currently have franchise owners who sell a ton of stuff, but it's because they're selling at really low margins. And so they don't feel very profitable, even though they're moving a lot of volume. That puts their business at risk.
Right.
So if
Yeah.
I don't pay attention or get them to pay attention to the profits, then every business could be vulnerable regardless of the revenue they produce.
That's so now knowing this, right? Because you said it was kind of this journey. Now knowing this, as you look for new franchisees, is that business acumen part of something that you would consider when qualifying someone, or
I think,
in the past too?
man, if we were to limit new franchise owners to those that have a strong business acumen or good financial literacy, nobody would be available. It's been decades since that's been a commonly taught item
Mm,
in the United States. It's just not
right.
part of our thread anymore.
Yeah.
No, what I need, well, there's two elements. One, I need someone who's coachable.
Mm, mm,
And honestly, that's true regardless of what aspect of the business you want to talk about. If you're going to be in a franchise organization, you need to be humble enough to be coached, because otherwise you're just buying a logo and a website and you're telling your Zor, like, thanks, I got it from here. And you're not making use of all that experience. Like,
mhm,
it's just a misalignment there in franchising there. What we have found interestingly too is the vast majority of franchise owners, whatever the system looks like when they are born into this franchise system,
mhm.
most of them, that's about as far as they're going to evolve. That's their expectation of the business. Like, hey, I came in and it looked like this, and that's my comfort level. I don't want it to change. I don't want it to evolve. The top performers continue to evolve and grow, and that's why they're top performers. But the vast majority of franchise owners, if they're born into a system talking about financial literacy, if they are born into a fact that we have a business coach walking through their business as it launches and scales, then there's quick adoption. It's the 80 owners that are already in place that have been here for years or almost a decade. We're now trying to bring this to them. And that's the hard part.
I see.
So every time we evolve and every time we go a little bit further on that journey, wherever that position was that the franchise owner came into the system, they're quick to adopt all of it because that's what they knew when they came in.
Where do you want Blooming Blinds to be 6 to 12 months from now?
I think we just want to continue. I mean, that's in my business and the way we look at things, that's a relatively short time frame.
Mhm.
So I think just continued stability, continuing to march towards those goals. 6 to 12 months, I think, continuation on our goals. Or within 6 to 12 months, I expect to have our AI empowered software in the hands of the franchise owners. I think that'll be a major opportunity for growth and scale for us. I really want to continue and will continue to beat on that financial education point and really driving the bragging rights should be on profits, not on sales. And, if we can accomplish those two things, then that's a win no matter what else happens.
For the 83 franchisees, what's their territories typically look like? Or can they cross, or is it very regional to their?
Well,
Yeah.
we work on zip codes,
Mm, okay,
and within those zip codes, they own all rights to revenue and marketing.
got it.
I have another competing franchise in my space that just has territory based on marketing rights,
Mm,
but revenue can go from anywhere.
anywhere, right.
Most of our franchise owners are in suburban markets, so major metropolitan areas where the majority of the homes are single family units. That's kind of the mecca for window covering and home service businesses.
Mhm.
We work on qualified households. So we build our territories to 40,000 qualified households.
Okay.
Qualified means that for a household to be counted, it has to pass through two filters. It has to be owner occupied
Hmm.
because rentals and second homes aren't going to consume these products nearly as quickly. And then you also have to have a income threshold, and that's currently set at 60,000 for a household income, which is still relatively low. But any household below that mark is definitely not going to be investing in window coverings. We're definitely a disposable income product,
Mm,
a need, not a want. We're not food, shelter, or children's medicine. All those things are going to come way before us.
right.
So I would say within the window covering franchise space, we have the largest territories, not only in the number of households, but then by the fact that we put those two filters on to eliminate anyone who we know is not going to be a core customer. We've really designed the territories to be where one territory could sustain a small business. And if somebody wants an empire, then they need more than that.
I'm assuming franchisees have to live near the area that they are servicing.
Absolutely. So we are definitely an owner operator model. What I really want is an ambitious, scalable owner operator, but we do not allow for any semi absentee or anyone to come in and just simply think they're going to hire a manager and let that manager run the business. Handful of different reasons why, but ultimately the right way to build this business is for the owner to be in the business. Somebody with an ownership title has to be in the business 9 to 5. We do not allow Bloomin Blinds to be treated as a side hustle. Like,
Mm,
I don't care if you have a side hustle. I just don't want to be it. So you could have a husband and wife, and one of them's got a day job and the other one's running the business. You could have a nephew who's got 10% ownership and they be the full-time operator. That's fine. At least somebody with ownership is operating this business full-time. It's not just somebody's job.
Now, if you were to go back and give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
Are we keeping this specific to Bloomin' Blinds?
Whatever you want to share.
Franchising. If I was to go back to high school, Kelsey, and I think kids don't understand this well enough, but a lot of people have grown up with the phrase or the idea that you can be anything you want.
Mm,
The truth is that's a literal statement.
mm,
That is a literal statement. If you really set your mind to it, if you put the focus and effort into it, you can literally do anything you want in today's world.
hmm
I don't know why, but I'm fascinated with helicopters. If 18-year-old Kelsey was coming out of high school and somebody said you literally can do whatever you want, I would be flying helicopters right now. In terms of Bloomin' Blinds, there's been a lot of growth and a lot of lessons learned. Sometimes I get the opportunity to share this with people who are considering franchising their business. I do some validation calls for a friend of mine that helps people become franchises. And I think being as selective as possible about your franchise owners, trying to get the system as far, like I mentioned, franchise owners, in my experience, kind of evolutionary, stay whatever the system looks like when you introduce it to them.
hmm
So to get your business and your system as far down that road as possible, as quickly as possible, so that they are as advanced or have as many opportunities or use the opportunities you build for them. And the other one, which is kind of generic to franchising, early on, we built locations and used territory as a sales tool. And that was a mistake. We gave away territories that were far too large.
Mm.
The other brother.
Yeah, their brother.
Yeah, there's three of us.
Nice.
Yeah. And so those are just some of the first ones to show up for various topics of my life.
It sounds like you had some lessons learned with picking franchisees. You can't kick a franchisee out though, right? Once they're in the
Well,
system?
not without bad behavior. So every franchise agreement has various clauses that say, hey, if you do these things, we have the right to remove you from the system.
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
If and it, like for ours, file bankruptcy, charged with a felony, disparaging remarks against the brand, continual problems where you're not fulfilling your promises to customers, things like that. Right. So it's a pretty significant contractual obligation between you and a franchisor, and that's not to be taken lightly, right? Not only are you investing a ton of money, and we're putting our faith and our trust in you, and so there has to be a lot of mutual respect for each other for this to go really well. And because of the size of the significance or the significance of the investment from the individual, the contract needs to be written in a way, the FDD has to be written in a way that we can't just emotionally remove a franchise owner. So you have to behave pretty badly to get kicked out of a system or to have a franchisee come at you with lawsuits or threats and things like that. A good relationship and open communication should be able to mitigate most of those issues. In 10 years, I've only had to terminate one franchise owner.
And the rest, like when it was the lessons learned and maybe they weren't the right fit, it just took coaching then, I'm assuming, to get them back on the right track.
To as much as they'll listen, again, honest truth about franchising, most franchise owners that close probably didn't utilize their franchisor or follow that franchise business model playbook very closely.
Mm.
If a system like ours, like we've had franchise owners close, and some of it was because we picked people or allowed people in who probably shouldn't have been in business in the first place. Some of them were great people, great operators, and they just kind of got off the path and they like lost track of the business model and ended up like wasting money or opportunities because they weren't following the recipe. But if a system has 20, 30, 80, 180 successful owners, but they've had 15, 20% of them over the course of time fail, there's that whole group that are making it work that says, hey, this business model has viability.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that went out of business, it's usually not because it's a bad system.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Nobody likes to hear that though. Like that's not nice to say. But it's the honest truth. And frankly, I think franchising needs to say it more. It's just not very sales friendly to say it.
And so, as a leader, what tips would you give to those who want to aspire to be a franchisor or a CEO of a business one day?
Man, CEO's tough. Like I filled that role for a while and I still don't understand what the CEO role really is. Especially if you're a hands-on person.
Right.
To my understanding, a CEO is kind of like the thought leader inside the room. They're trying to make sure that everyone else gets to go and do the stuff and that they have the resources and the encouragement to go do it. But from what I understand, the CEO doesn't really do a whole lot from a physical level.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
They're more thought leadership or inspiration. And I tried to do that, and that was very boring to me. So I was happy to give that away.
Okay.
Someone
A
who's
few
if
years.
somebody's going to want to be a franchisor, I think you really need to solve for why does the world need another one?
Mm.
It's not that every franchise business or every new franchise has to solve for that. I'm sure some have been successful without it, but I think it's hard to justify to an individual why they should put their savings, their money, their hope and trust into a business. I think it's far more defensible and likely going to be more successful if there is some sort of differentiation from the existing market. You've got to have a decent amount of cash, or you have to have a very lean current lifestyle/business because franchising takes a lot of money. We had no idea about the financial responsibilities that come with being a franchisor.
Mm.
We bootstrapped it. We didn't have a ton of cash. We started this thing with $10,000. And because we had a successful business that we could kind of siphon off of, our family business, we didn't collect money from the franchise side of things for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. We had almost 30 franchise owners before we ever thought about taking a dime out of the franchise system.
Wow.
And you just have to be able to do that if you don't have the cash in your back pocket. I also think a lot of people don't understand that when you franchise your business, you're getting into an entirely different industry.
Yes.
Franchising and whatever industry you're in are two totally different animals. It's like comparing apples and orangutans.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that. That was part of our naive perspective when we got started. We thought we were just going to take our window covering expertise and extend it into these other people. And that's all we needed to know. No, the business of being in franchising is an entirely different language and skill set and complexity and working elements than the widget that I used to play with in living rooms all day long.
And that's because you're more influencing the owners.
Well, no, it's the business of franchising, the dynamics, the support, even just the vocabulary.
Mm.
That's an entirely different segment of business than your ice cream shop or your blind company or your restoration business or anything else you can think of. Those are two unique industries. And so if you're going to franchise your business, you better be ready for the learning curve of picking up a new language very, very quickly.
Just like you, like that's something people don't think about. Like they're just thinking, let
At
me just scale,
all.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, nobody told me that when we were thinking about this.
That's really good advice though. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Best place is either Bloomin Blinds or LinkedIn. Yeah, we're on various socials and whatnot. If somebody wants to get a hold of Kelsey, just easiest way is probably LinkedIn and just search for Kelsey Stuart or Bloomin Blinds.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey, for being on the podcast today. I really enjoyed all your advice, your experience, learning about your experience. And so thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you got value, share it, tag us, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Catch you next time on the Ascend Growth AI podcast.